when you believe that he is the Son of God, you will do whatever he wants us to do.
In the Philippines have arrested a celebrity televangelist wanted by both US and Philippine authorities for sex trafficking.
I am now the owner of the earth. I am now the owner of the world.
Ang kasong ito ay naghamon sa bawat isa sa inyo na pag-aralan ang isang manipulasyon at ang taong nagpakilalang isang Diyos. Ating pag-uusapan ang isang tao na sa kaniyang manipulasyon ay pinaniwalaan ng milyon-milyong mga tao na siya ang pangalawang pagdating ng ating Panginoong Jesucristo. Ang taong nagtatag ng kaniyang relihiyosong imperyo na nakasungkit ng bilyonis na halagang piso o dolyar. Advisor ng dating Presidenteng Rodrigo Duterte, ang taong nagpahinto daw ng lindol at may kapangyarihang magpahinto ng bagyo.
Ginawa lang niya akong hinirang niyang anak sapagkat tapat ako sa kanyang mga salita.
Before they can come to the Father, they go through me. Every human beings.
Ito na nga yung katotohanan. Ako ang daan at ang buhay. Pag di kayo dumaan sa akin, hindi kayo pupunta.
Pero noong naging wanted na siya sa FBI, si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy mismo ang naglagay sa kanyang ulo ng patong na 5 milyong dolyars. Yun ang halaga sa mga international terrorist. Pero kung i-double check ito, hindi pala totoo. Pero may patong siya dito sa Pilipinas na 10 milyon. At noong huhulihin na siya sa mga pulis, umaabot sa 3,000 pulis ang naghahanap sa kanya sa loob ng ilang linggo habang ang buong mundo ay nanonood nito. Ito ang kaso ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy. Sigurado magtanong kayo, paano ang isang tao na paniwalaan ng milyon-milyong mga tao sa ilang dekada na siya ang appointed Son of God? Naalala ba ninyo noong December 2019, si Vice Ganda habang nagpatawa sa kaniyang show sa ABS-CBN?
I have a feeling it's Quiboloy. The one who stopped the earthquake. Quiboloy is the only one who can stop Provinciano. Watch out for that. Yes. So what now? I challenge you, Quiboloy, to stop Provinciano.
Sa kanyang programa sa telebisyon, si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy tumingin sa kamera at sinabi, ang ABS-CBN ay masasarado pagdating sa 4 na buwan. Marami ang tumawa lamang. Ang ABS-CBN ay nag-operate sa loob ng 67 taon. At noong Mayo 2020, ang ABS-CBN broadcast license ay nag-expire na. At noong Hulyo 2020, ang Kongreso kasama ang mga kaibigan at kaalyado ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy bumoto 72-11 na patayin ang renewal application ng ABS-CBN at noong August 2022, ang palabas na Probinsyano ay nagtapos sa kanilang seryeng palabas at ito talaga ay nangyari 4 na buwan. Si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy ba ay sa Diyos o sa demonyo? Kumusta? Welcome. At tatalakayin natin ito. Sino ba ang mag-akala na ang kilalang makapangyarihan, self-proclaimed appointed Son of God, may kapangyarihang magmanipula sa isipan, damdamin ng mga taong naging kaanib nito na paniwala sa ilang dekada na siya ang pangalawang Hesus. Siya ang appointed Son of God sa kanyang kapangyarihan at sa kanyang yaman. Daming mga politiko na kanyang mga kaibigan at ipinaglaban pa siya. Lalo na ni Senador Amy Marcos, si Senador Robin Padilla, at iba pang mga kaibigan niya. makapangyarihan. At sino bang mag-akala na sa kanyang malahari na appointed, self-proclaimed appointed Son of God, ngayon, hinihiling na sa Estados Unidos na siya'y i-extradite. At ang update, mga kapatid, inaaprobahan na daw sa Department of Justice. Ngayon, ulitin natin ang tanong. Alam naman natin na daming mga kasong patong-patong si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy dito sa ating bansa. Di ba? At hiniling ng Estados Unidos na dapat siya haharap sa mga patong-patong na kaso. Kayo ba? Pabor ba kayo na pagbigyan ng kasalukuyang administrasyon ang hiling ng Estados Unidos? Tinatalakay natin ito kagabi, mga kapatid. Ano mangyari sa kanyang kaso dito sa ating bansa, yung mga patong-patong na kaso, kung siya'y pahintulutang haharap sa ibang bansa? Inanyayahan natin ang ating mga soking taga-subaybay na nag-subaybay ngayon. Huwag kalimutang pindutin ang like sa ating live at huwag din kalimutang mag-subscribe at pindutin ang bell button para updated kayo, mag-comment at i-share ninyo. No? Pero may nagkomento, mas mabuti pa daw umano na papayag si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy na doon sa ibang bansa ikulong dahil napakaganda daw ang kalagayan sa kulungan doon at ang pagkain. No? Pero hiniling ng mga abogado ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy sa korte na di daw umano muna payagan ang hiling ng Estados Unidos. So ano sa palagay ninyo, mga kapatid? Pwede kayong mag-comment diyan. Maraming salamat, Papa Inok, Ricami Piedad, kapatid Christy Concepcion Sherot, Buni Pananoria, at sa lahat ng mga suking taga-subaybay ngayon. Welcome si Ajin Kanda, Bernardo Dolores, at sa lahat ng mga sumusubaybay sa ating live streaming ngayon. Okay. Welcome. Bago tayo papasok sa punto por punto, mga kapatid, late kasi tayo. Ito muna, pakinggan natin ang kaugnay sa buhay ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy. Yung pagiging tanyag niya, nagiging tanyag si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy sa kapangyarihan, pera, at sa mga kaibigan. Kaya pag birthday, ang daming mga politikong na dadalo. No? Sila si Villar, iba pa mga kaibigan. Basta-basta. Pero sino bang mag-akala? Dahil ba siya'y appointed Son of God talaga? O meron lang siyang sistema sa pakipagkaibigan sa mga makapangyarihan, lalo na sa mga politiko? Pakinggan muna natin ito.
Did he really have divine powers? Or did he have the kind of political influence that could literally erase his enemies from existence?
So si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy ba, meron ba talagang kapangyarihan na galing sa Diyos? O meron lang siyang impluwensya? Impluwensya sa politika na pwedeng i-delete ang kalaban niya.
Because what we're about to discover is that Apollo Quiboloy didn't just claim to be the Son of God. He built a system of power and control.
Oo, talaga. Hindi lang siya nag-aangkin na siya ay appointed Son of God. Meron talaga siyang sistema. May pag-control. Di ba ba? Ang pahayag sa mga miyembro niya, yung mga inutusan na magbinta at magkunwaring mga pipi at yung iba pa, no? At yung nakuha sa audio Visaya na galit siya dahil di nakaabot sa quota. Tuloy natin.
That made that claim seem believable to millions of people. April 25th, 1950, Davao City, Philippines. Apollo was born into a deeply religious family that had
So, ang kanyang mga magulang ay mga protestante na. So, ito ang problema sa mga protestante. Lalo na, wala silang magisterium, pagkatapos meron silang doktrina sola scriptura. Sola scriptura meaning Bible alone, no? Sola scriptura. So, tingnan nyo ang sola scriptura. Ang dami ng mga sikta na nabuo, ang daming iba't ibang mga self-proclaim, merong anghel, si Felix Manalo, merong tinatawag na Divine Master, God the Holy Spirit, diyan sa Dinagat Island, Surigao. At dami din ang kanilang mga miyembro. Merong tinatawag na PBMA, may PBCM, no? At meron ding Diyos Espiritu Santo na may Santo Papa sila. So, dami ng mga sikta. Pero kung tingnan natin ang Biblia, 2 Corinto 11, 12, 15, bahagi yan sa espiritual na digmaan.
migrated from central Philippines after World War II. His parents, Jose and Maria, were looking for better opportunities in the southern region of Mindanao, and they were serious about their faith. Jose was originally Protestant, but eventually moved the family into something called the Oneness Pentecostal Movement.
So, noon pa man, oneness na talaga sila. Pentecostal movement. Kaya yon talaga ang turo ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy. Oneness Pentecostal movement, hindi yan naniniwala ng Trinity. No? Para sa kanila, ang Ama naging anak at ang anak naging Espiritu Santo. Pagtatag ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy, naging siya na. Di wow.
Think of it as a very strict, very intense form of Christianity that doesn't believe in the traditional Trinity. Now, here's where things get interesting. When Apollo was just 14 years old, he started claiming he was having visions. But these weren't...
So, malaking posibilidad talaga ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy na yung sinasabi niyang ang aking ama nagpakita sa akin. Bata pa lang siya, may nakita na siyang vision. So, meaning, malaking posibilidad na open ang psychic ability ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy. Ama kaya talaga, Diyos kaya talagang nagpakita niya. Halimbawa, nalala ninyo, di ba? Nang nag-file siya sa pagkasenador, sabi niya, pakita sa kanya ang kanyang ama at sabi na dapat magtakbo siya sa pagkasenador. So, anong nangyari ngayon?
Your typical teenage spiritual experiences. We're talking apocalyptic stuff. The earth consumed in fire, the sun turning dark, the moon dripping with what he said was red liquid.
So, maalala ninyo yung dating miyembro niya nangongolekta noon, di ba? 2000, sinabi na matatapos na, guguho na, at may mga miyembro na pinagbinta ang mga ari-arian umano. Naalala nyo yung testimony ni Arlene? Okay, tuloy natin.
Apollo was convinced he was receiving divine revelations about the end of the world. So in 1972, Apollo graduated with a degree in theology from what's now called the Apostolic Center for Theological Studies. And let me tell you, this guy could preach. They called him the preaching machine because of his intensity and energy behind the pulpit. But then, in 1985, he was under an...
Magaling talaga si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy. Magaling siya sa pangaral niya sa kanyang doktrina, pero hindi lang haharap ng debate ito. Naghamunan sila ni Eliseo Soriano, namatay na lang si Eliseo Soriano, walang nangyaring debate. Dahil ang daming palusot ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy na nang tatanggapin daw niya ang pakipagdebate ni Pastor ni Eliseo Soriano pag ilang milyon na salapi ang ipasok sa kaniyang bank account.
again, this time for preaching what church leaders called unorthodox doctrine and openly criticizing other pastors as unfit and ignorant. Rather than face discipline, he walked away and started his own thing. On September 1st, 1985, he officially broke away from his church and took...
So yan, ang mga protestante, no, pag di magustuhan ang mga kanilang kasama, pwede silang magtatag ng sarili, gaya kay Pastor Apollo Quiboloy.
Several followers with him. Together, they formed what would become one of the most dangerous religious movements in modern history, the Kingdom of Jesus Christ.
Imagine, the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, gamit pangalan talaga. Di ba? Babala ng ating Panginoon Jesucristo sa Mateo Kapitulo 7, versikulo 21-24, na dami talagang mga magdala sa kanyang pangalan at marami ang ililigaw nila. Sabi pa dito sa narrator, the most dangerous religion.
The name above every name. Here's what's terrifying about charismatic leaders like Apollo. They understand that the bigger the lie, the more people want to believe it. Apollo started small, preaching to just 15 people in the slums of Davao City. His message was simple but incredibly powerful. He was God's appointed representative on earth, and following him was the path to salvation. For people living in poverty, struggling with illness, or dealing with family problems, that message was like a lifeline. The Kingdom of Jesus Christ grew steadily. Their main cathedral sits prominently by the Davao Airport, a massive, impossible-to-miss statement of power and influence. Today, the church claims about 4 million followers in the Philippines and 2 million abroad, though those numbers are impossible to verify and likely inflated. But Apollo wasn't content with just being a religious leader. He wanted to build something bigger, a multimedia empire that would spread his influence far beyond the walls of his church. In 2000, he founded Jose Maria College, offering education from grade school all the way up to specialized medical and law programs. Think about that for a second. This is a man who's essentially running his own educational system, shaping young minds from childhood through professional training. He's not just recruiting followers, he's creating them from birth. Then came the media empire. Apollo launched something called Sunshine Media Network International, or SMNI. Before that, his church had been airing shows on local radio and TV stations, but now he had his own network. His flagship program, The Hour of Truth, was broadcast on major networks across the Philippines, reaching millions of viewers every week. Around 2007, his organization set up offices in California and Hawaii, establishing themselves as registered nonprofits in the United States. This wasn't just about spreading his message, it was about creating a sophisticated financial network that could move money around the world while maintaining the appearance of legitimate charitable work. And here's what makes this case so...
Yan talaga ang sistema ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy. Imagine, hindi lang sa ating bansa, sa labas ng bansa para sa napaulat na peking charitable institusyon niya.
Disturbing. While Apollo was building this empire of influence and wealth, he was also building something else entirely, a system of control and exploitation that would eventually catch the attention of the FBI and lead to some of the most serious trafficking charges. But before we get to that, I need to tell you about the first signs that something was seriously wrong. Came in 2004, when a mother filed a lawsuit. This woman accused Apollo's church of essentially holding her 19-year-old daughter captive after she joined the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. According to the lawsuit, church members confiscated the girl's passport, isolated her from her family, and cut off all outside contact. If that sounds like classic cult behavior to you, that's because it absolutely is. The case was eventually settled quietly, with the court basically saying that since the daughter was an adult, she couldn't be forced to leave if she didn't want to. But looking back now, knowing what we know about how Apollo's organization operated, that lawsuit was probably just the tip of the iceberg. But it was what happened in 2008 that really showed just how far Apollo was willing to go to get what he wanted. Apollo had his eye on a piece of ancestral land in Davao that belonged to a tribal leader named Datu Domingo Diarog. Apollo wanted this land for something he called his Glory Mountain compound. and he offered Diarog about 20,000 pesos for it, which was basically pocket change compared to what the land was actually worth. When Diarog refused to sell, things got ugly fast. According to reports, Apollo's crew, led by a local official named Greg Canada, started harassing Diarog's family. They allegedly torched his farmhouse 3 times. There were even rumors that Canada tried to bribe Diarog's own nephews, offering them money to eliminate their uncle. Then, on April 29, 2008, at 10:30 p.m., masked gunmen stormed Diarog's hilltop home and opened fire. Datu Domingo Diarog was struck with bullets to the chest and head and lost his life. His wife Emily was shot in the leg but survived. 4 of his children were wounded, including his 4-year-old daughter Mimi, but thankfully none of the kids passed away. The whole village fled after the attack, and of course the land value dropped dramatically. And guess what happened next? Apollo's church built their compound right on Diarog's former land, complete with armed guards patrolling the property. When people accused Apollo of masterminding the attack, he laughed it off, calling the accusations baseless. Meanwhile, local rebel groups blamed him outright, saying he had put a bounty on Diarog's head. Apollo denied everything, but the pattern was already clear. When Apollo Quiboloy wanted something, people who stood in his way had a tendency to disappear or meet unfortunate ends. And this was just the beginning of what Apollo was capable of when he had real power. And that brings us to the relationship that made Apollo virtually untouchable for decades. Duterte and Apollo's relationship goes back decades to when Duterte was mayor of Davao City, the same city where Apollo built his religious empire. But their connection became truly significant during Duterte's 2016 presidential campaign. Apollo didn't just endorse Duterte, he bankrolled his entire campaign. We're talking about lending Duterte his private jet and helicopter for campaign events. Apollo also reportedly gifted Duterte multiple houses. When you're running for president of a country, having access to private aircraft and unlimited financial support is a game changer. But the relationship went far beyond campaign support. Once Duterte became president, Apollo became his spiritual advisor. Think about that for a second. The leader of a cult was literally advising the president of the Philippines on spiritual matters and reportedly even on cabinet appointments. There are reports that government officials felt they needed to apologize to Apollo if they made decisions without consulting him first. According to former church members who have spoken out, Apollo allegedly offered some of his female followers, the ones he called pastorals, to Duterte and other high-ranking officials. One former spokesperson for ex-KOJC members, Arlene Stone, stated that victims were allegedly offered to people very close to Apollo, including President Duterte. Stone claimed that if Duterte liked one of the members of the pastoral group, Apollo would grant it. She also said that aside from Duterte, Apollo gifted other officials who were in power. These aren't just allegations about financial corruption. These are allegations about human trafficking at the highest levels of government. The protection this relationship provided, Apollo cannot be overstated. For years, he operated with complete impunity, knowing that any investigation or legal action against him would have to go through a government where he had direct access to the president. When Duterte was mayor of Davao City and later as president, he frequently appeared on Apollo's television station to promote his police-enforced campaigns. When Apollo was finally arrested in 2024, Duterte immediately retaliated by filing charges against the officials who had carried out the arrest. This wasn't just a religious leader with political connections. This was a man who had essentially embedded himself into the power structure of an entire country. And while he was enjoying this protection, something much darker was happening behind the walls of his kingdom. For years, the public had no idea what was really happening inside Apollo's kingdom of Jesus Christ. To outsiders, it looked like a successful religious organization with impressive facilities, a thriving media operation, and millions of devoted followers. But around 2020, former members started speaking out, The first whistleblowers were women like Renita Fernandez and Arlene Caminong, who had grown up inside the organization and spent years working for Apollo directly. Their stories painted a picture of systematic exploitation that went far beyond typical religious control. Renita Fernandez described growing up in the church and being put to work as a fundraiser with strict quotas she had to meet. When she couldn't bring in enough money, she lost her status and importance within the organization. But that was just the beginning of what these women experienced. Arlene joined the church when she was just 15 years old. She started out fundraising, but eventually became what Apollo called a pastoral, a title that sounded spiritual.
When I was there, the first duty that I had was to serve this called spiritual one. I will bring food for them. I will wash all their clothes, including their underwear. I will clean up their bedrooms. And then at night, I will give them massages until they're satisfied, and they will tell me, okay, now you can sleep. During that time, while I was massaging them, the strange thing that struck me is 2 of them asked me the same question, if I was still a virgin. I was young. I was like, yes, I don't have any experience with any man because I was 15 years old when I know the ministry. I was 16 years old when I joined as a full-time worker. They then introduced me to become pastoral. I bring food for Pastor Quiboloy. I wash his clothes, iron his clothes, everything that's related to him. That's what my duty.
According to the FBI and multiple witness testimonies, pastorals were young women and girls, some as young as 12, who were selected to be Apollo's personal assistants. But according to federal prosecutors, they were also coerced into providing intimate services to Apollo in what was euphemistically called night duty. Let me be clear about what we're talking about here. The FBI alleges that from 2002 to at least 2018, Apollo and his church leaders systematically selected girls and young women. Some of these victims were minors. According to the federal indictment, church leaders told these girls and young women that having relations with Apollo was God's will. They were threatened with physical and verbal abuse and told they would face eternal damnation if they didn't comply. The girls were forced to write commitment letters pledging to devote their lives and bodies to Apollo as the appointed Son of God.
And suddenly he started to move my hands to put on his. He said, massage here, and I said, oh my God, okay. And I massage. And after that, little by little, he just turned to me and he removed my clothes. And I even can, because I was very shocked. I was like, I cannot explain, because I was nervous. This is what happened. He just removed my clothes and
We've been there every week. We have to go. There's like schedule for every girl that you have to be there. Every time
One pastoral said that before she went into the Son of God's room, she was told to shower, wash her hair with the violet palmolive shampoo, put on lotion, and spray herself with enchanted body mist from Bath and Body Works, Quiboloy's favorite scent. The pastorals who performed their duties well were rewarded with privileges like trips to Disneyland, flights in private jets, use of cell phones, and yearly monetary payments called honorariums. Philippine police officials investigating Apollo told senators that up to 200 women may have been victimized by him over many years, with 68 confirmed victims of abuse identified so far. But the abuse wasn't limited to the Philippines. Apollo was running a parallel operation in the United States. Starting around 2007, Apollo's organization began sending church members to the United States on what prosecutors say were fraudulent visas. These workers were told they were coming to America to do God's work, but the reality was very different. According to the FBI, these workers were forced to solicit money on the streets of major American cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, for what prosecutors call a bogus charity called the Children's Joy Foundation, based in Glendale, California. The workers would tell people on the street that their donations would go to help children in poverty, but according to federal prosecutors, that money was actually being funneled directly back to Apollo's church in the Philippines to finance church operations and what they describe as the lavish lifestyles of its leaders. The FBI says Apollo's organization kept detailed spreadsheets tracking workers sent to different American cities, monitoring how much money each person brought in daily, and tracking their immigration status. This wasn't some small-time scam. This was an international trafficking operation with sophisticated record-keeping and management. The conditions these workers faced were brutal. According to the federal indictment, they were forced to work very long hours, often sleeping in cars overnight, without normal access to medicine or adequate clothing. When they couldn't meet their fundraising quotas, they faced punishment and abuse. Many of these workers had their passports and immigration papers confiscated by church leaders. Some were forced into fake marriages with fellow church workers to help them stay in the United States year-round. Others were put on fraudulent student visas, with the church paying their tuitions as a cover for their real purpose. The money these workers raised made its way back to the Philippines in various ways. Sometimes it was wire transfers. Sometimes workers would carry cash, as much as 9,000 rolled up in socks in their luggage, but sometimes the amounts were much larger. Some of the women brought to the United States were also being exploited in the same pastoral system that was operating in the Philippines. One woman was allegedly sent to buy medication for intimate dysfunction.
Dito sa ating bansa, yung mga ari-arian niya nakapraise, no? At kanina ang balita, pinahintulutan umano ng DOJ ang hiling ng Estados Unidos para haharap si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy sa mga patong-patong na kaso. Dahil nauna nang sinabi ni Attorney Rico Domingo kagabi sa ating live na nireplay natin na ang purpose na kailangan siyang haharap sa ibang bansa to preserve the evidences and witnesses dahil sa haba o mano ng mga taong posibleng igugugol sa paglilitis dito sa bansa, may posibilidad na yung mga witnesses sa ibang bansa sa mga kasong patong-patong din baka magkasakit at mamatay, anong mangyari sa naturang kaso. So, ang tanong, pabor ba kayo na dapat haharap si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy sa ibang bansa sa patong-patong niya na kaso? Comment kayo. Subukan muna natin na makapasok sa punto por punto sa pagkakataong ito mga kapatid. Ilyon Re? Kung yun ang kanilang argumento na si Moises lang ang inutusan, therefore siya lang ang may karapatang gagawa ng mga larawan, lalo na sa mga banal, abay, common sense na marang sana gamitin nila. Bakit? Halimbawa sa Ezekiel 41:17-22, di po ba may mabasa diyan na ang templo ng Diyos ay may mga nakaukit na mga larawan sa templo ng Diyos. Ang tanong, ba't nilagyan ang templo ng Diyos ng mga larawan ng mga anghel at may mukha ng tao, kundi pwede magawa dahil si Moises lang ang inutusan? Ibig sabihin, dahil inutusan ng Diyos si Moises sa paggawa ng larawan ng kerubin at ang kerubin ay banal, therefore ang banal, mga banal ay pwedeng gawan ng larawan. Ang ipinagbabawal ay ang larawan ng mga Diyos-Diyosan. Pangalawang argumento, kung si Moises lang ang inutusan, therefore siya lang ang pwedeng magawa ng mga larawan. Di ba nila nabasa ang 2 Hari 23:15-18? Di po ba may monumento ng propeta? At sabi pa ni Propeta Josnias, Kaninong monumento yan? Monumento ng propeta. Huwag niyong galawin. Huwag niyong gibain. So therefore, hindi lahat ng mga monumento ay ipinagbabawal ng Diyos. Kung balikan nga natin, kahit sa Protestant na salin, ito ang mabasa natin sa the Living Bible, Galatians chapter 3 verse 1. O foolish Galatians, what magician has hypnotized you and cast an evil spell upon you? For you used to see the meaning of Christ's death as clearly as though I have waved a placard before you with a picture on it of Christ dying on the cross. So imagine, with the picture, Protestant na salin yan, although hindi tayo sola eskriptura, Bible alone, pero pinagbigyan natin ang ating mga kapatid sa gusto nila na dapat may mabasa sa Biblia. Sa Protestante na salin, Isaiah 56:5. Then I will set up a monument in the area of my temple. Hula ito. Nasa templo daw ng Diyos, I will set up a monument in the area of my temple. Tanong, kanino bang templo may monumento? Di po ba sa Katoliko? Ang sa ating mga kapatid, wala silang monumento, wala silang mga imahe ng mga santo dahil wala naman silang kasamang naging santo. Ano po ba ang kabuluhan para sa mga monumento? Joshua chapter 4 verses 6 up to 7. We will use them to build a monument so that in the future, when your children ask, what is this monument for? You can tell them, it is to remind us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the Ark of God went across. The monument will be a permanent reminder to the people of Israel for this amazing miracle.
I am